As I delved deeper into the online dating universe, a cocktail of thrill and fear stirred within me. It was a fresh experience, having joined Tinder just a few weeks ago, and I was still finding my way in this digital maze. On a moonless night, I stumbled upon a profile that piqued my interest. His name was Ethan, a 28-year-old musician with a soul that seemed to resonate with the wild. His pictures were a canvas of adventures, painting him amidst mountains and rivers, igniting a spark of curiosity in me. Our conversations blossomed, filled with laughter and witty exchanges that danced between us as days turned into nights. Ethan had a way of weaving words that pulled me in, making me eager for our daily digital rendezvous. After a whirlwind of virtual chemistry, Ethan proposed a real-life meeting, a dinner under the city lights. His assurance of my safety and comfort eased my apprehensions, and with a hopeful heart, I agreed to meet him. The day arrived, and a whirlpool of excitement and nerves engulfed me. I adorned myself in a dress that whispered elegance, with hair cascading in gentle waves. As time drew near, I wondered if Ethan would mirror the charm he exhibited online. A sleek black car halted before my dwelling, and there he was, punctual and smiling warmly. I stepped in, and we ventured into the night, the city lights winking at us as we drove. The journey was filled with light-hearted banter, Ethan inquiring about my life, sharing snippets of his, a harmonious exchange that felt natural and pleasant. We reached La Lune, a quaint restaurant bathed in a soft glow. Ethan had secured a secluded spot for us, a gesture that spoke of thoughtfulness. As the night unfolded, his compliments flowed, each one more flattering than the last. Dinner felt like a dance of words, a delicate balance between personal stories and guarded secrets. Yet, as the conversation delved deeper, a subtle shift in his demeanor began to surface, his questions probing, almost invasive. As we exited, Ethan insisted on paying, showering me with praises that felt increasingly extravagant, almost rehearsed. A discomfort began to nestle within me, a small voice urging me to retreat to the safety of my home. The drive back was a series of hints dropped about future dates, his voice holding a note of desperation that I couldn't ignore. I responded non-committally, a sense of unease growing with each passing moment. As we reached my home, Ethan suddenly insisted on coming in, his request laden with underlying intentions. Despite my clear boundaries, he persisted, his face transforming, his polite facade crumbling to reveal a menacing stranger. Panic surged as he forcibly entered my home, his actions contradicting the gentleman he pretended to be. I found myself trapped, my pleas falling on deaf ears as he advanced, a predatory glint in his eyes. In a frantic rush, I barricaded myself in my room, my heart pounding in my chest like a frantic caged bird. The situation escalated quickly, his demands turning into threats, a violent urgency in his voice that terrified me. I dialed 911, my voice shaking as I explained the nightmare unfolding in my home. The operator's calm voice was a lifeline in the chaos, assuring me that help was on the way. I could hear him wreaking havoc in my living space, a symphony of crashes and bangs echoing as I hid, praying for the nightmare to end. The arrival of the police was heralded by flashing lights piercing through the darkness, commands booming, demanding Ethan to surrender. I remained hidden, trembling, as I heard him reluctantly retreat, his heavy footsteps receding, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. With the police securing the perimeter, I emerged, a broken figure in a home-turned battlefield, the remnants of my sanctuary lying shattered around me. The officers were kind, their faces reflecting sympathy as I recounted the horrifying ordeal, my voice breaking, tears flowing uncontrollably. They praised my quick thinking, promising that Ethan would face the consequences of his actions, a manhunt initiated to bring him to justice. In the following weeks, sleep became a distant memory, haunted by the phantom sounds of breaking in, a constant fear of Ethan lurking in the shadows. The call from the police came unexpectedly, a late-night revelation that sent chills down my spine. Ethan had been apprehended after a high-speed chase, a man with a history of violence and dark secrets. I learned that I had narrowly escaped becoming a victim of his twisted desires, a predator using Tinder as a hunting ground for innocent prey. The reality hit hard. a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking behind charming profiles and sweet words. A sinister world where monsters wore the masks of gentlemen. The rain was pouring outside as I stepped into the Rustic Brew, a cafe known for its vintage charm. I was there to meet Sarah, a girl I'd been chatting with on Tinder. She had insisted on this particular cafe, mentioning it held special memories. I spotted her at a window table, her silhouette framed by the rain outside. "Sarah." I approached hesitantly. She looked up, her face pale. "Jake, you made it," she whispered, almost as if she hadn't expected me to show. We ordered our drinks. As we waited, she began to share stories of the cafe's history, of mysterious patrons and rumors of underground dealings. I laughed it off, thinking she was trying to spook me. However, as the evening progressed, she grew more intense. "Do you know about the underground poker games here, Jake?" she asked, her gaze never leaving mine. Not really," I replied, trying to lighten the mood. She leaned in. "This cafe, Jake, it's a front. High stakes, dangerous people." I chuckled nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke. Suddenly, a group of men entered, their demeanor serious. Sarah's face drained of color. "They're here," she whispered. I felt a sense of unease. I tried to stand, but Sarah's grip on my hand was tight. "Stay," she urged. Panic set in. "Sarah, what's going on?" I stammered. She began to explain in a hushed tone. "I owe them, Jake. I thought I could win back what I lost, but it spiraled out of control." One of the men approached our table, his gaze cold. "Evening, Sarah. Who's your friend?" I swallowed hard. "Jake." Sarah tried to negotiate. "I'll get you the money, just give me a bit more time." The man smirked. "You've had enough time." I intervened. "Look, I don't know what's going on, but let's find a way to sort this out." The man eyed me. "And who are you to her?" "Just a date," I replied, trying to distance myself from the situation. But Sarah's desperate plea, "Help me, Yaga," made it clear I was now involved. The man made a proposition. A game. One hand of poker. Win, and Sarah's debt is cleared. Lose, and you both owe me. With no other option, I agreed. The stakes were high, and the tension palpable. As the cards were dealt, Sarah whispered, "I'm so sorry, Jake." The game was intense, each move calculated. In the end, it came down to the final reveal. We lost. The man's smirk grew wider, and the atmosphere in the cafe turned icy. "You know the stakes," he whispered menacingly to Sarah. Before I could react, two of his men grabbed her while another restrained me. In a desperate move, I managed to elbow one of them and break free, rushing out of the cafe. The rain outside masked my escape as I dialed 911, explaining the situation in hushed, frantic tones. The police arrived swiftly, but the men and Sarah were gone. They'd vanished into the rainy night. I was questioned, my account taken, and was told they'd do everything to find Sarah. Days turned into sleepless nights. The guilt of leaving Sarah behind weighed heavily on me. I kept replaying that night, thinking of ways I could have changed the outcome. One evening, as I was lost in my thoughts, I heard a noise outside my window. Peeking out, I saw shadows moving, the same men from the cafe. Panic surged through me. I remembered the police mentioning they'd keep an eye on my place just in case. I dialed 911, whispering about the intruders. The operator assured me help was on the way. Moments later, sirens blared, and the men were apprehended. But there was no sign of Sarah. The police interrogated them, but they remained tight-lipped about her whereabouts. Weeks turned into months. The city was on high alert, with Sarah's face plastered everywhere. The community rallied, holding vigils and hoping for her safe return. Then, one day, a letter arrived at my doorstep. No return address, just a simple note. "I'm safe. Far away. Thank you for everything. Sarah." Relief washed over me, but the mystery of that night and Sarah's sudden disappearance haunted me. The cafe, once a symbol of vintage charm, now stood as a chilling reminder of that fateful encounter. A few weeks later, the police made a grim discovery. Sarah's body was found in a remote location, showing signs of a struggle. The reality hit me like a ton of bricks. The letter I received, the hope I felt, was all a cruel ruse. Paranoia crept in. Every shadow, every unfamiliar face made me jump. If they could get to Sarah, what was stopping them from coming after me? The realization that I might be their next target weighed heavily on my mind. In the age of online dating, always trust your instincts, because one swipe, one message, or one meeting can change your life in ways you never imagined. And sometimes the most dangerous threats are closer than you think. I had matched on Tinder with a captivating woman named Clara. After days of swiping, she stood out with her passion for photography, love for classic novels, and her vibrant personality. We decided to meet at a cozy cafe downtown for our first date. I arrived early, securing a table by the window. The cafe was adorned with fairy lights, giving it a magical ambiance. I ordered a cappuccino and waited, nervously checking my phone every few minutes. Soon, Clara walked in, her red hair flowing, wearing a denim jacket over a floral dress. She spotted me and waved, her smile lighting up the room. "Jake?" she asked, extending her hand. "That's me. It's great to finally meet you, Clara," I replied, shaking her hand. We started talking, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. Clara shared stories of her travels, capturing moments with her camera, and her love for Jane Austen novels. I talked about my job, my love for hiking, and our mutual appreciation for old-school rock music. As we were deep in conversation, a shadow loomed over our table. I looked up to see a familiar face, my ex, Sarah, glaring down at us. "Jake, who's this?" she hissed, her eyes darting between Clara and me. Clara, looking taken aback, replied, "I'm Clara. And you are?" Sarah scoffed, "His ex, the one he can't get over." I felt my face heat up. "Sarah, this isn't the time or place." Clara, trying to diffuse the situation, calmly said, "Maybe we should all sit down and talk." But Sarah wasn't having it. "Talk? About what? How you're trying to replace me?" "Sarah, please, just go," I pleaded. She huffed, "You'll regret this," and stormed out. I turned to Clara, my face red with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry about that. I had no idea she'd be here." Clara took a deep breath. "It's okay, Jake. It's not your fault. But maybe you should talk to her, sort things out." I nodded. "You're right. I'll handle it." We tried to continue our date, but the mood was ruined. Clara was understanding but cautious. We decided to meet again, hoping for a better experience next time. The next day, I confronted Sarah, asking her to respect my boundaries. It was a tough conversation, but necessary. I realized that moving on requires confronting the past and setting clear boundaries for the future. Over the next week, Clara and I continued texting, sharing snippets of our days and getting to know each other better. We decided to give our date another shot, this time opting for a quiet evening at a rooftop restaurant with a view of the city skyline. The evening was clear with stars twinkling overhead. The soft hum of the city below provided a comforting backdrop. As I waited at the rooftop, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety. The last date's interruption had left a mark, and I hoped tonight would be different. Clara arrived, her silhouette illuminated by the city lights. She looked stunning in a navy blue dress, her red hair tied up, revealing delicate silver earrings. "Hey," she greeted with a warm smile, dispelling my anxieties. "Hey, you look amazing," I replied, pulling out a chair for her. We ordered our meals, and soon, the conversation flowed as easily as it had during our first meeting. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and our aspirations. The city below seemed to fade away as we got lost in each other's stories. Suddenly, a soft tune began playing from a nearby speaker. It was Landslided by Fleetwood Mac, a song we'd both mentioned loving. "Care for a dance?" I asked, extending my hand. Clara smiled. "I'd love to." We danced, the city lights providing a surreal backdrop. It felt like a scene straight out of a movie. As the song ended, Clara looked up. "Jake, about the other day, I just wanted to say that everyone has a past. It's how we handle it that defines us." I nodded. "I appreciate that. And I promise, Sarah is my past. You and I, this is my present, and hopefully my future. She smiled. I'm glad to hear that. The night continued with more laughter, stories, and a promise of many more dates to come. As we left the rooftop, hand in hand, the city seemed brighter, full of possibilities. The following weeks were a whirlwind of dates, from movie nights to hiking trips. Clara introduced me to her world of photography, and I showed her my favorite hiking spots. We were inseparable, and it felt like we'd known each other for years. However, the shadow of my past relationship with Sarah still loomed. She tried reaching out a few times, but I made it clear that Clara and I were serious, and she needed to move on. One evening, as Clara and I were leaving a concert, we were confronted by Sarah. She looked distraught, tears streaming down her face. "Jake, I need closure," she sobbed. Clara, ever the peacemaker, stepped forward. "Sarah, I understand it's hard, but you need to let Jake live his life, and you need to move on too." Sarah looked up, her eyes red. "I know, it's hard." I sighed. "Sarah, we had our time. It's over now. I wish you all the best." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I'm sorry. I truly am." But as Clara and I made our way to her apartment, which was just a short walk away, we felt an eerie sensation of being watched. We tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the confrontation with Sarah. As we approached Clara's building, I noticed a shadowy figure lurking nearby. Before I could react, Sarah emerged from the darkness, a glinting knife in her hand. Her face was twisted with rage and despair. "Jacket, if I can't have you, no one can," she screamed, lunging at Clara. I acted on instinct, pushing Clara out of the way, but I wasn't fast enough to avoid the knife entirely. It pierced my shoulder and a sharp pain shot through me. I grunted, using all my strength to tackle Sarah to the ground, ensuring the knife was out of her reach. Blood stained my shirt, but my adrenaline was pumping too hard for me to fully register the pain. Neighbors, hearing the commotion, began to gather, their faces pale with shock. Someone shouted that they were calling the police. Sarah, pinned beneath me, looked up with wild eyes, her earlier facade of acceptance shattered. "Why? Why would you protect her with your own life?" she screamed, tears streaming down her face. I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "Because I love her, Sarah. It's over between us." The police arrived swiftly, arresting Sarah. Clara rushed to my side, her hands trembling as she pressed them against my wound, trying to stem the bleeding. The traumatic event left us shaken, but it also solidified our bond. We realized that together we could face any challenge, no matter how unexpected or terrifying. In the vast digital maze of online dating, one profile stood out from the rest. Alex. A smile that felt genuine, and eyes that whispered secrets. After days lost in intriguing conversations, we decided on a rendezvous, a local park, where the familiarity of nature would offer us both a sense of security. The day arrived and I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I chose a bright yet casual outfit, hoping to reflect the sunny disposition I carried in our conversations. As I walked to the designated spot, I spotted Alex, who looked just like his pictures, a relief in the age of catfishing. We greeted each other warmly, and soon we were immersed in a deep conversation, sharing laughs and stories from our lives. Alex had a way of making me feel seen, heard, and valued. It felt as if we had known each other for years. As the sun set, Alex suggested we grab dinner at a nearby food truck. The evening was going perfectly, but as we stood in line, I noticed Alex becoming increasingly distracted, constantly checking his phone and looking around nervously. "Is everything okay?" I asked, noting Alex's sudden change in demeanor. He hesitated, then sighed. "I have to be honest with you. I've been trying to get out of a bad situation, and I thought it was behind me. But I just got a message that makes me think otherwise." I felt a pang of concern. "What kind of situation?" Alex looked around before leaning in closer. "I was involved with some people, not by choice. They didn't take kindly to me leaving. I thought I had covered my tracks, but they might have found me." My heart raced. The serene setting of our date suddenly felt threatening. "We should leave," I whispered. We quickly paid for our food and started walking towards a more populated area. Every shadow seemed to lurk with danger, every passerby a potential threat. Suddenly, a car pulled up beside us, and the window rolled down. A familiar face from one of Alex's stories stared back at us. "Thought you could run, Alex," the man sneered. Without thinking, I grabbed Alex's hand and we ran into a nearby alley, trying to lose them. We could hear footsteps echoing behind us. "We need to split up," Alex said, his voice trembling. "It's me they want." "No way," I replied. "We stick together." We found a hiding spot behind a dumpster, trying to catch our breath. The footsteps grew closer. Suddenly, a hand grabbed Alex, pulling him away from me. I screamed, trying to hold on to him, but more men appeared, overpowering us. They dragged Alex into a waiting car, leaving me behind, shaken and terrified. I managed to catch a glimpse of the license plate before they sped off. One of the men with cold eyes leaned close, his breath foul. "If you call the police, we'll come for you next," he hissed. They sped away, leaving me in a state of shock. One evening, as I was trying to distract myself with a book, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a picture of Alex, looking terrified, with a message that read, "You're next." Panic surged through me as I realized that the danger Alex was in had now reached my doorstep. I immediately contacted the police, who urged me to stay vigilant and assured me they were doing everything they could to find Alex and the person behind the threatening message. The days that followed were a blur of fear and anxiety, with every noise making me jump. Finally, a breakthrough. The police located the car and raided a secluded property. Alex was found, shaken but alive. His captors were part of a notorious gang he had unwittingly crossed paths with in his past. The park, our chosen spot for a first date, had turned into a nightmare. But it also became a testament to the strength of human connection and the lengths one would go to protect someone they care about. In the sprawling universe of online dating, I once found myself swiping right on a man named Robert. His profile was a breath of fresh air, filled with references to classic films, rare vinyl records, and an affinity for jazz. Our conversations were electric. Days turned into nights as we discussed everything from our favorite noir films to the most haunting jazz melodies. After a fortnight of such exchanges, we decided to meet at the Jazz Man's Den, a renowned underground jazz bar. The evening was cool, the city lights shimmering. As I entered, I immediately recognized Robert from his photos. Tall, with a sharp suit and those piercing blue eyes, he stood up. "Eleanor, it's wonderful to finally meet." We settled into a dimly lit booth. The ambiance was perfect with a live jazz band playing. Our conversation flowed effortlessly. "Ever been to the old cinema downtown?" he asked, sipping his drink. I shook my head. "They're playing The Silent Echo tonight. It's a rare film from the 60s. Interested?" Intrigued, I agreed. We left the bar, the streets alive with the night's energy. The cinema, a relic from another era, stood tall. We took our seats, the theater buzzing with a few patrons. As the film began, I felt an odd sense of déjà vu. The storyline, the characters, it all felt eerily familiar. The protagonist, a woman named Clara, met a man, Ron, through a dating ad in a newspaper. Their date, their conversations mirrored ours. I turned to Robert, my unease evident. "It's just a coincidence," he whispered, but there was a smirk on his face. The film's tension escalated. Clara began to suspect Ron of hiding something. She found clues, a photo from her past, a letter she never sent, all in Ron's possession. I felt Robert's hand on mine, his grip tightening. "It's just a film, Eleanor," he murmured. But his eyes, they held a secret. The climax approached. Clara confronted Ron. Their dialogue was intense. "Why are you stalking me?" she demanded. Ron's reply sent chills down my spine. "Because you're the mystery I've been waiting to solve." The screen went black. The cinema's lights dimmed further. Whispers filled the room. I turned to Robert, but he was gone. Panicking, I rushed out, the cinema's corridors echoing my footsteps. I bumped into a staff member. "Did you see the man I was with?" I asked, breathless. He looked puzzled. "You came in alone, ma'am." Confused and scared, I hurried out. The city, once familiar, now felt alien. I hailed a cab, constantly looking over my shoulder. Reaching home, I locked all doors. My phone buzzed. A message from Robert. "Did you enjoy the film?" Days turned into weeks. I reported Robert, but there was no trace of him on Tinder. My friends, Lucy and Mark, were supportive, but the paranoia was inescapable. Lucy, one evening, brought over a box she found outside my door. Inside was a film reel titled "The Silent Echo" and a note, "To the mystery I'm still solving." I decided to investigate. With Mark's help, we delved into the cinema's history. We discovered it was owned by a man in the 60s named Ronald. His lover, Eleanor, disappeared under mysterious circumstances after they watched a film together. The pieces connected. Robert, or Ronald, was recreating that night, with me as Eleanor. Determined to confront him, I set a trap. Using the film reel as bait, I waited at the cinema. Hours passed. Just when I was about to give up, Robert appeared. Our confrontation was intense. "Why me?" I demanded. "Eleanor was my obsession, and you're her reflection," he replied. The police, alerted by Mark, arrived in time. Robert was arrested. Turns out he was Ronald's grandson, obsessed with his grandfather's story. The ordeal was over, but the shadows of that night lingered. The lines between reality and film blurred. But one thing was clear: I was no longer a character in Robert's twisted plot. I was the author of my own story. In the shadows of the night, if our tales from unsettling horror stories gave you a fright, press like and let it be known. Subscribe, so you're never alone in this haunting journey, and share, so others too can be wary. Until our next sinister tale, stay dark, dear listener.